Daniel woke up before the sun, the same way he did every day. The ranch was quiet, the sky still dark, and the cool morning wind moved slowly across the open fields. He stepped outside with a cup of warm coffee in his hand and listened to the familiar sounds of the ranch waking up. The horses shuffled in their stalls, the cattle moved slowly across the distant pasture, and the wooden boards of the old porch creaked softly under his boots. For Daniel, this life was simple, tough, and peaceful. He liked it that way. He was not a big man, not very tall or heavy, but every part of the ranch carried the mark of his hard work. People who lived nearby often told each other that Daniel could do the work of two men even though he looked like someone much younger and smaller. He never argued with them. He only worked quietly, day after day. That afternoon, he drove his old pickup truck into town to buy feed, tools, and a few supplies he needed for the week. The road was long and dusty, stretching far across empty land. The sky was wide and bright, and the wind carried warm air across the fields. On his way back, he saw something unusual on the side of the road. A small car was parked unevenly, its hood open, and someone was standing beside it. As he got closer, he saw a woman, clearly frustrated, wiping her hands on her jeans. She looked tired, confused, and very out of place on that lonely road. Daniel slowed his truck and parked behind her car. As he stepped out, she looked up quickly, almost startled. He noticed her red eyes, as if she had been trying not to cry. She moved her hair away from her face and let out a shaky breath. Daniel gave a small, polite smile, not wanting to make her feel embarrassed. "You okay?" he asked gently, keeping his voice soft. She hesitated for a moment, then gave a weak laugh that sounded more like a sigh. "No, not really," she said. "My car just stopped. I don't know anything about engines. I tried to check it, but it's too heavy. I can't figure it out." Daniel nodded. "Mind if I take a look?" She looked him over quickly. She saw someone lean, quiet, and not very large. Her stress made her speak without thinking. "You're too small," she said suddenly. "I don't think you can manage this either." She froze as soon as the words left her mouth. She covered her mouth with her hand. "I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I'm just stressed." Daniel didn't take it personally. He took things slowly in life. He gave her another small smile. She stepped aside, feeling embarrassed. Daniel lifted the hood with steady hands. He didn't rush, didn't show any irritation. He checked the battery, the belts, the oil, and the hoses. He listened to the engine when he tried to turn it on. The woman watched him in silence. She expected him to struggle, but instead, she saw someone calm and confident. He didn't look strong, yet he handled everything smoothly, like he had done it 100 times before. After a few minutes, he stepped back and wiped his hands on a rag he kept in his truck. "Your engine isn't the problem," he explained. "The fuel pump is failing. It needs a proper fix. It won't start again until a mechanic takes a look." She closed her eyes, and her shoulders dropped. Daniel didn't like seeing anyone so upset. "There's a mechanic in town," he said, "but he closes early on weekends. I can tow your car to my ranch for now. It's safer there. Then in the morning, I can help you get it to the shop." She looked at him with mixed emotions, relief, worry, hesitation. She didn't know him, but she didn't have another option. "Are you sure? I don't want to trouble you." "On the redder." "It's no trouble," Daniel replied simply. "I pass this road every day. You'd help me if you saw me stuck here too." His words were sincere, gentle, and without pressure. She nodded slowly. "Okay. Thank you." They attached a tow rope, and Daniel drove carefully toward his ranch while she followed in the passenger seat. The ride was quiet at first. She stared out the window, feeling awkward about her earlier comment. Daniel didn't bring it up. He didn't need to. His calm presence made it easier for her to relax. After a while, he asked, "Where were you headed?" "Back to the city," she said softly. "I came here for work, and everything went wrong today. I just wanted to get home." Daniel nodded. "Long day?" "The longest," she said with a tired smile. When they reached his ranch, her eyes widened. The place was wide, peaceful, and beautifully open. Horses moved freely in a nearby field. The house was simple, but clean. The fences were straight and strong. Everything felt alive with quiet effort. "This is your place?" she asked, surprised. "Yep," Daniel answered. "Welcome." She stepped out of the truck and looked around. She watched Daniel unhook the tow rope, lift heavy tools, and move with practiced rhythm. She suddenly felt guilty again for calling him small. Everything he did showed strength, not loud strength, but the kind that came from long days, long years, and a calm heart. "Thank you for helping," she said quietly. Daniel shook his head. "You were stressed. Anyone would feel the same." She laughed nervously. "Still, you proved me wrong." He shrugged. "People underestimate me all the time. It doesn't bother me." But she could see something honest in his eyes. It wasn't pride or hurt, just acceptance. The sun began to set, spreading orange light across the ranch. It looked warm and safe. She felt a little calmer, like the heavy weight of the day had loosened. "Let me get you something to drink," Daniel said. "You look like you need a break." She followed him inside the small house. The wooden floor was clean, the furniture simple, and the warm smell of fresh bread filled the air. He poured her a glass of cold water and set it in front of her. She sighed deeply after drinking it. "You live a peaceful life." Daniel nodded. "Quiet, but good." She studied him again, his hands rough from work, his clothes dusty, his expression gentle. He was someone who didn't talk much, but everything about him felt steady. "How do you handle this place all alone?" she asked softly. He smiled. "One day at a time." She felt something shift inside her. Earlier she had doubted him, but now she saw someone capable, patient, and strong in a quiet way. Someone who didn't give up easily. The evening grew cooler, and silence settled between them. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like the kind of silence that grows between two people who are slowly understanding each other. As the sky turned darker and the stars came out, she realized something unexpected. Meeting him might have been the only good thing that happened that day. Something about him made her feel safe in a world where she often felt small, rushed, and overloaded. Daniel didn't know her story, and she didn't know his. But this simple moment, the broken car, the dusty road, the quiet ranch felt like the beginning of something neither of them had planned. And she would remember the way he helped her even after she said he couldn't. He didn't take her words as an insult. He took them as a challenge. He didn't need to prove, only answer with action. He refused to give up, not because he wanted praise, but because helping was simply who he was. Daniel woke early the next morning, just as the first light touched the wide sky. He stepped outside with a calm breath, and the familiar quiet of the ranch greeted him. The horses were moving slowly in their corral, their soft sounds mixing with the cool morning wind. He had a long day of work ahead, but he didn't mind. Hard work was part of his life. Before he began, he remembered the woman from yesterday, Hannah. Her car was still parked near the barn. He wondered how she was doing and whether she slept well after such a stressful day. Inside the small guest room, Hannah was already awake. She had barely slept, even though the room was warm and the bed soft. Her mind kept replaying yesterday's events, her car breaking down, her rude comment, Daniel's patience, and the quiet strength he carried without showing it off. She still felt embarrassed. She didn't know why she had said what she said. Maybe it was fear. Maybe frustration. Maybe the long hours of stress she had been hiding for too long. Whatever it was, Daniel had not held it against her. That alone surprised her more than anything. When she walked outside, the cold morning air touched her face. She found Daniel feeding the horses. He looked up and offered a simple smile. "Morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied softly. "I didn't want to bother you. I thought I'd just come out and check on things." "You're not bothering me," he said, shaking feed into a large bucket. "Not very well," she admitted honestly. "My mind was busy." Daniel nodded, as if he understood without needing details. "That happens." She watched him as he worked. His movements were steady and practiced. He carried heavy bags of feed easily, lifted tools without strain, and handled the horses with gentle confidence. She remembered how she judged him at first glance. Now she felt foolish for it. "About your car," Daniel said, bringing her attention back. "The mechanic opens in a few hours. If you want, I can help you tow the car again and get it to his shop." "That would help me a lot," she said with relief. "I didn't know what I would do." "Let's wait for him to open," he replied. "Until then, you're welcome to stay here." She nodded, feeling both shy and grateful. There was something peaceful about this ranch. Even though she hadn't slept well, something inside her felt lighter being here. After feeding the horses, Daniel walked toward the old wooden table outside the house. He set down 2 cups of warm tea. "You look like you need this," he said. "Maybe I do," she replied with a small smile. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the morning wind, the soft clucking of chickens, and the distant sounds of cows moving across the pasture. To Hannah, this silence didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt like a gentle break from the noise of her life. "You run this whole place alone?" Hannah finally asked. "Yeah," Daniel said simply. "Been doing it since my dad passed." She felt a pull of sympathy but also admiration. "That must be really hard." "It's work," he replied. "Some days are harder, some are easy. But it's mine. And I like the quiet." She looked around at the wide fields, the open sky, the worn fences that Daniel took care of with his own hands. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Daniel didn't say anything, but he gave a small nod. He looked at the land the way someone looks at something they built, with patience and sacrifice. As the sun rose higher, he started checking the fence near the barn. Hannah followed him, curious. He hammered new nails into a loose board and pulled out a damaged piece of wood to replace it. He made everything look easy, even though the work was heavy. Sweat formed on his forehead, but he didn't complain. "Can I help?" Hannah asked suddenly. Daniel paused and studied her expression. She looked sincere, not just polite. "Are you sure?" he asked. "It's dusty work." "I'd like to," she said. "Besides, I want to be useful. You've helped me enough already." He handed her a hammer. "All right then, hold this." She took the tool awkwardly and watched as he showed her where to stand and how to hold the board steady. The hammer felt heavier than expected, and when she tried to drive a nail in, she missed the first time. The second time, she hit the nail, but not straight. She frowned at her mistake. "This is harder than it looks," she muttered. "It gets easier," Daniel said calmly. She tried again, focusing more. The nail went in halfway. She hit it again and again, her arm shaking. Finally, the nail was in place, though a little crooked. She stepped back and sighed. "This is terrible." Daniel looked at the nail and smiled gently. "It'll hold." She laughed softly. "I don't know how you do all this alone." "One step at a time," he replied. She noticed that each time she struggled, Daniel didn't laugh at her. He didn't judge or make her feel slow. He simply helped, guided, and encouraged her. She didn't realize how much she needed that kind of patience in her life until now. After working for a while, they both stood back and looked at the repaired fence. "It's not perfect," Hannah said. No ranch fence is, Daniel replied. What matters is that it stands. Those words stayed with her more than she expected. As the morning passed, the mechanic shop finally opened. Daniel drove his truck and helped tow her car into town again. The mechanic promised to fix it, but said it would take at least a full day, maybe more. Hannah felt her stomach drop. She had work waiting for her in the city. She had meetings, deadlines, and responsibilities she couldn't ignore. I don't know what I'm going to do, she murmured. You can stay at the ranch until it's ready, Daniel offered without hesitation. She looked at him, surprised. Are you sure? I've already caused enough trouble. You didn't cause anything, he said firmly. Something about the way he said it made her feel safe. Not just safe, but seen. Nobody back in her city ever made her feel like this. Everyone expected her to keep going, keep working, keep handling everything without complaint. But here, Daniel didn't expect anything. He didn't push, didn't rush her, didn't judge her. He simply offered a place to breathe. They returned to the ranch, and the afternoon sun warmed the land. Hannah sat on the fence rail, watching the horses move with slow grace. Daniel checked the water troughs and tossed hay with practiced movements. You really love this place, don't you? She asked. Yeah, he said quietly. It's home. She felt something soften inside her. She envied that feeling. The feeling of belonging somewhere. Of being part of something stable. As the day went on, Daniel prepared a simple lunch, bread, cheese, vegetables, and cold water. They ate outside under the shade of a large tree. Hannah shared stories about her stressful job, the long hours, and the pressure she carried. She didn't mean to talk so much, but the words came out easily in Daniel's calm presence. He listened patiently, not interrupting, not judging. When she finished, he said only one thing. Sounds like you've been holding too much alone. She swallowed hard. No one had ever said that to her before. Not like that. Not with understanding. As the sun began to set again, she realized something important, something gentle and unexpected. Yesterday, she thought she had met a stranger on a lonely road. But today, she felt like she had met someone who saw past her stress, past her hurried life, and past her doubts. And even though she had said he was too small to handle anything, he had shown her more strength in one day than most people had shown her in years. Everything about Daniel, his kindness, his patience, his quiet confidence made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safe, seen, understood. And she didn't want this day to end. Hannah woke up the next morning feeling a little different from the day before. The soft light coming through the small window made the room look peaceful. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel the usual tightness in her chest. She stretched slowly and listened to the distant sounds of the ranch horses moving, birds calling, and Daniel's steady footsteps somewhere outside. She didn't know why. But being here felt comforting, even though she was living in a stranger's home. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the space. Maybe it was Daniel's calm presence. Whatever it was, she didn't want to rush anything this morning. When she stepped out of the room, she found Daniel outside checking the fence again. The early sun warmed the land, and he worked with the same quiet focus he always had. He didn't look up right away. But Hannah saw the small smile on his face when he noticed her walking toward him. Morning, he said. Morning, she replied. Just fine, he answered. I slept better than I expected, she said honestly. That's good, Daniel said, lifting another piece of wood. This old fence needs more fixing today. I can help, she said. Daniel paused, surprised. Are you sure? I want to try, she insisted. Yesterday I wasn't very good at it, but I want to learn. He nodded softly. All right, I'll show you. They walked together toward the far end of the fence that bordered the back pasture. The morning wind carried the smell of grass and earth. Horses grazed peacefully nearby, their tails flicking softly. Hannah took in the scenery. It felt like a world far from her busy city life. Daniel handed her a hammer again and placed a small pile of nails beside her. She tried to copy the way he lifted his arm, how he held the nail steady, how he kept his balance as he worked. But even with all the care she took, the nail slipped again, causing her to gasp and pull her hand back quickly. "It's okay," Daniel said, stepping beside her. "Try holding it like this." He guided her hand, but he did it gently, leaving her enough space to do it herself. Hannah felt her cheeks warm. She focused again and hit the nail. This time, it went in straight. Her eyes widened. "I did it," Daniel nodded, impressed. "See? You just needed practice." She laughed soft, relieved, and almost childlike. For a moment, she felt proud of herself. But that feeling didn't last long. When she tried the next nail, it bent halfway, and she stepped back in frustration. "I'm not good at this," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm too small. My arms get tired fast. I can't manage this kind of work." Daniel stopped what he was doing and looked at her carefully. He didn't look annoyed or disappointed. He just looked patient. "It's hard work," he said. "Even for me. The muscles learn with time. But I can't do it like you," she whispered. "You're not supposed to," Daniel said. "You're learning. That's enough." His words were simple, but to her they felt deeper. She wasn't just talking about the fence. She was talking about everything in her life. Work, stress, expectations, the weight she carried every day. Her hands trembled slightly. Daniel noticed, but he didn't push her to explain anything. Instead, he said, "Let's take a break." They sat on a patch of cool grass near the fence. The breeze brushed against them, and Hannah pulled her knees close. The open land stretched in every direction, and the sky above them was clear and wide. Daniel leaned back on his hands and watched the horses for a moment. "You know," he said slowly, "nobody is born knowing how to do ranch work. You learn one thing at a time. Some days you get it right. Some days everything goes wrong." Hannah kept her eyes on the ground. "But you do it all alone. You manage everything." "I didn't have much choice," he said. "Life pushed me into it." She looked up at him. "Don't you ever get tired?" "I do," he admitted. "But quitting doesn't get the work done." Hannah felt something twist in her chest. She remembered all the times she wanted to quit her job but didn't because quitting meant disappointing someone else. She remembered all the nights she stayed awake finishing tasks for people who never appreciated her. She remembered feeling small and powerless, even when she tried her best. She let out a slow breath. "I feel like I'm always struggling. With work, with pressure, with everything." Daniel didn't judge her. He didn't tell her she was wrong or weak. He simply said, "It happens to everyone." His voice was calm, but those simple words broke something inside her. Suddenly, her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. She turned her face away, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to cry." Daniel didn't touch her. He didn't try to stop her tears. He just sat there, quietly, giving her time. "You don't need to apologize," he said softly. "It's okay to feel things." Graham. Hannah wiped her eyes quickly. I feel like I'm failing. Like I can't keep up. At work, they expect me to do so much. And when I can't, I feel like they must be right. I must be too small, or not strong enough." Daniel listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't rush her. "I didn't mean to say you were too small yesterday," she added. "I was talking about myself. I feel small all the time." Daniel took a slow breath. "You're not small," he said gently. Hannah stared at him. No one had ever said something like that to her. Not her boss, not her coworkers, not her friends. Everyone always told her to be stronger, tougher, faster. Daniel was the first person to tell her she didn't have to be those things to matter. They sat quietly under the sky for a long time. When the wind moved through the grass, it sounded like a soft whisper. Hannah felt the weight on her chest lift, even if only a little. After the break, Daniel stood up. "Come on, let's try again. Slowly this time." She nodded and followed him. She held the hammer again, and though her hands still shook a bit, Daniel guided her gently. This time, she hit the nail correctly on the second try. Not perfect, just better. And better was enough. As the hours passed, Hannah learned to carry small tools, hold boards steady, and even tie a few knots Daniel showed her. Each task was difficult, but Daniel never left her side. He corrected her mistakes, praised her small successes, and gave her the kind patience she never encountered in her busy city life. By noon, they had repaired more of the fence than she ever thought possible. "You're doing good," Daniel said. Hannah felt her cheeks warm again. "Thanks for not giving up on me." Daniel smiled. "I don't give up easily." She believed him. When they walked back to the house, she felt lighter than she had in months. Working on the fence didn't make her strong in a physical way, but it made her feel capable. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. That evening, the sky turned orange and gold. Hannah sat on the porch while Daniel checked the barn. She watched him for a long time, noticing how he moved with quiet responsibility, how he didn't complain, how he faced everything one task at a time. She whispered to herself, "He didn't give up on me." And for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she didn't want to give up on herself either. The sky was already turning soft shades of orange and pink when Hannah walked out of the small guest room that evening. She felt tired, but not the kind of tired she knew from her city life. This was a calmer tiredness, one that came from doing real work and letting out some of the heavy feelings she had carried for so long. She looked around the ranch and saw Daniel near the barn, checking the horses one last time before sunset. His quiet movements, steady hands, and gentle voice made everything feel peaceful. It was strange how quickly she had grown used to the sight of him. She walked toward the porch, sat down on the wooden step, and pulled her knees close to her chest. The cool breeze brushed against her face. The silence of the ranch felt like a warm blanket around her. Something she didn't want to lose. But peace doesn't last forever. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She took it out slowly, already feeling her stomach tighten. When she saw the name flashing across the screen, her boss, her heart sank. She hesitated before answering, hoping maybe she could ignore it. But she knew she couldn't. She pressed the phone to her ear. "Hello?" she said softly. Her boss's voice burst out immediately, fast, sharp, impatient. He talked about deadlines she had missed, reports she hadn't sent, meetings she was obligated to attend. Hannah tried to explain that her car had broken down, that she was stuck far from the city, but he didn't care. He only said that she needed to fix her attitude and take things more seriously. By the time the call ended, her hands were shaking. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. She didn't want to cry again. Not tonight. Not after such a good day. But the tears came anyway. She tried to breathe slowly, but the tight feeling in her chest grew stronger. She felt small again, just like she had told Daniel. Too small. Too weak. Too slow. Too everything. She felt like no matter how hard she tried, nothing she did was ever enough for anyone. She didn't know Daniel was walking toward the house until his shadow moved across the porch. He stopped when he saw her sitting there, shaking. His calm face changed, just a little enough to show concern. "Hannah?" he asked quietly. She quickly wiped her cheeks, trying to hide her tears. "I'm fine," she whispered, even though she wasn't. Daniel didn't believe that, but he didn't push. He sat down beside her. leaving a little space so she didn't feel crowded. The wooden step creaked under his weight. He didn't ask questions right away. He just waited, letting her breathe. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The world felt slow and gentle, but inside Hannah's chest, everything was heavy and loud. Finally, she whispered, "It never stops." Daniel looked at her with quiet seriousness. "What doesn't?" "The pressure," she said, her voice cracking. "The expectations. The work. The way everyone wants something from me. And no matter how hard I try, it's never enough." Daniel didn't interrupt. He just listened. "I feel like I'm drowning," she continued. "Every day. Every week. And today, when you helped me, for a moment, I felt like maybe I wasn't failing. But then that call came, and it all came back." Her voice trembled as she wiped another tear. "I don't know how you do it. How you stay calm. How you handle everything alone." Daniel took a slow breath before answering. "I wasn't always calm." Hannah looked up at him, surprised. "I used to get angry, frustrated," he said. "After my dad passed, the ranch was too big for one person. I didn't know what I was doing. I made mistakes every day. I felt overwhelmed all the time." She watched him carefully, sensing there was more. "One night," he continued, "I was so tired that I fell asleep outside. When I woke up, one of the fences had broken during the night. 2 horses got out. I spent the whole next day searching the fields, thinking I had failed completely. I felt small, too. Too small for this life. Too weak to carry everything." Hannah's breath caught. She had never imagined Daniel feeling that way. "But I found the horses," he said softly, "one step at a time. And that day showed me something. You don't need to be strong all the time. You just have to keep trying." Hannah lowered her head, her tears falling freely now, not from sadness but from relief. Daniel didn't think she was weak. He didn't judge her. He understood her. "That's why," he continued, "when you say you can't manage something, I don't see weakness. I just see someone who's been carrying too much alone." Those words broke her completely, not in a bad way, but in a way that released everything inside her. Without thinking, she whispered, "I'm tired of carrying it." "You don't have to carry everything by yourself," Daniel said in a calm, steady voice. "Some things get lighter when you let someone stand beside you." She looked at him, her eyes soft but full of emotion. No one had ever said something like that to her. Not at home. Not at work. Not in her entire adult life. Daniel wasn't trying to fix her. He wasn't telling her what to do. He was simply offering support. Quiet, steady, honest support. The sun dipped lower, turning the sky a deeper orange. Hannah wiped her face again and took a long breath. "Thank you," she whispered, "for listening. For being here. You don't have to thank me," Daniel said, but she wanted to. She looked at him for a long moment, noticing the things she had not seen before. The tired lines around his eyes, the quiet strength in his posture, the softness in his voice when he talked to her. He wasn't just a rancher living alone on a quiet piece of land. He was someone who knew how pain felt. Someone who had held heavy things and survived. Someone who didn't turn away from others who were struggling. The porch grew darker as the last bit of sunlight faded. Daniel stood up slowly. "Come inside. You should eat something. Come inside." She nodded and followed him. The house felt warm and safe, with the soft glow of a single lamp lighting the room. Daniel prepared a simple meal, warm soup and fresh bread. Hannah ate quietly, feeling the warmth settle in her chest. When the meal was finished, Daniel walked her to the guest room door. "Try to rest," he said gently. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know what I would have done without you today." Daniel shook his head. You got through today because you're stronger than you think." Hannah felt her throat tighten again, but this time, in a good way. She stepped into the room, but before closing the door, she glanced back at him. The ranch felt different now. Daniel felt different too, not a stranger, but someone she could trust. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. She finally believed something she had never allowed herself to believe before. She wasn't too small. She wasn't weak. She wasn't failing. She was just tired. And now, she wasn't carrying it alone. Hannah woke the next morning with a feeling she could not fully understand. It was gentle, warm, and strangely brave. For the first time in a long while, she did not wake up worrying about her inbox or her deadlines. Instead, she woke up thinking about the ranch, the open fields, the peaceful silence, and Daniel's steady presence. When she stepped outside, the early sun was spreading a golden light over the grass. The air felt cool and fresh, brushing softly against her face. It was a simple morning, but something inside her felt new. She found Daniel near the barn, preparing feed for the horses. He glanced at her and gave a calm, welcoming smile. She returned the smile without thinking, as if her heart had already learned the habit. "Morning," Daniel said. "Morning," she replied, feeling lighter than yesterday. "Do you need help today?" Daniel looked a little surprised. He paused with a bucket in his hands. "If you want to help," he said, "I won't stop you. But don't push yourself." "I want to," she said. And this time, she said it with confidence. Daniel nodded and handed her a smaller bucket. It wasn't heavy, but it was still more than she would have carried just days ago. She walked slowly toward the corral, feeling the weight in her arms but refusing to give up. Daniel watched her quietly. He didn't correct her steps or rush to take the bucket from her. He just stayed close enough that she wouldn't feel alone. The horses moved eagerly as she poured the feed. One of them nudged her shoulder with its nose, making her laugh softly. Daniel smiled at the sound. It was the first time he had heard her laugh in a way that sounded free, not stressed or tired. After feeding the horses, they walked toward the far pasture to check the water trough. The warm sunlight painted the ground in soft colors. Birds circled above, and the wind carried the sweet smell of earth and grass. "I never realized how peaceful this place really is," Hannah said, her voice soft. "It grows on you," Daniel replied. "I think it already has," she said with a shy smile. As they reached the pasture, Daniel inspected the water trough, while Hannah walked along the fence line, touching the wood lightly. She paused when she noticed something unusual. A small calf was standing near a shallow ditch, crying softly. Its legs seemed stuck between two uneven edges of the ground. "Daniel," she called. He turned quickly and saw the calf struggling. Before he could reach her, Hannah was already running toward it. She knelt beside the frightened animal and tried to pull its leg free. The calf was lighter than a grown cow, but still heavier than she expected. It resisted every time she pulled, making her lose her balance more than once. Daniel walked fast toward her. "Be careful," he said gently, but he didn't stop her. He knew she wanted to try. "I can do it," she said through her quick breaths. She leaned forward, gripping the calf's leg firmly and pulling again. This time, she didn't hesitate. She didn't worry about being too small or too weak. She simply focused on helping. Daniel stepped beside her, ready to assist if she needed him. But he didn't touch the calf, unless she gave up. And she didn't give up. On her third attempt, with a determined breath, she pulled harder and steadier. The calf's leg came loose, and the small animal stumbled forward. It shook its body, let out a soft cry, and then began walking toward its mother. Hannah sat back on the ground, breathing hard but smiling with pride. Her hands were dirty, her hair messy, her arms shaking, but her smile was real, bright, and full of something she hadn't felt in years. Daniel looked at her with quiet admiration. "You did it," he said. Hannah looked up at him, her chest rising and falling slowly. I really did. You didn't give up, Daniel said. She shook her head. I remembered what you said yesterday. About taking things one step at a time. Daniel offered her his hand to help her stand. She took it, feeling a warmth spread through her chest, not from the sun, but from knowing she had done something she once believed she couldn't. They walked back to the ranch together. Hannah felt stronger with each step. Not because she suddenly had muscles or skills, but because she finally believed in her own ability to learn, to try, and to keep going, even when things felt difficult. As they reached the porch, Daniel sat down on the steps, and Hannah sat beside him. They watched the sky stretch wide over the ranch. The land felt different today, not just peaceful, but alive with new possibilities. You know, Hannah said after a moment, I used to think strength meant doing everything perfectly, or never failing, or never showing weakness. Daniel listened quietly. But today, I realized something. Strength is trying again, even when you feel small. Daniel nodded. That's true. She looked at him. You helped me see that. He met her eyes with a gentle expression. You helped yourself, he said. I just stood nearby. Hannah's heart felt full, but not in a heavy way. It was full, in a warm, hopeful way, like the world was slowly opening again, like she was finding a version of herself she had lost a long time ago. She watched the horses in the field and the soft glow of the sunlight resting on the fences they had repaired together. She remembered the frustration, the tears, the long days of feeling small and unheard, and she remembered how, piece by piece, Daniel had shown her that she was capable, important, and far stronger than she believed. The breeze brushed gently across her face as she whispered, almost to herself. Daniel smiled softly. I know. She looked at him with grateful eyes. Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. Daniel shook his head. I didn't do anything special. But Hannah knew he did. His patience, his kindness, his steady presence, those were things she had needed for years and never found until she met him on that dusty roadside. The sun moved lower, painting gold across the land. They sat there for a long time, not saying anything more. They didn't need to. The silence felt warm, full of trust and quiet understanding. And as Hannah looked out over the peaceful ranch, she realized something important. She was no longer the person who cried, I can't manage this. She was someone who tried. Someone who learned. Someone who helped a frightened calf, repaired a fence, lifted small burdens, and carried herself through difficult moments without breaking. She finally believed in herself. And Daniel, quiet, patient, steady Daniel, had been the one who showed her she could. Their story didn't end with a big moment or dramatic change. It ended with something much simpler and much more powerful. Two people sitting side by side, knowing that even in the quietest places, the right person can help you find your strength again.